At this point in our program, I'm happy to introduce our next speaker, Raymond Kelly, Commissioner of the New York City Police Department. Raymond Kelly was appointed Police Commissioner of the City of New York in January of 2002 by Mayor Michael Bloomberg, making him the first person to hold the post for a second separate tenure. In 2002, Commissioner Kelly created the first counterterrorism bureau of any municipal police department in the country. He also established a new global intelligence program and stationed New York City detectives in 11 foreign cities. Despite dedicating expensive resources to preventing another terrorist attack, the New York City Police Department has driven crime down by 40% from 2001 levels. Commissioner Kelly also established a real-time crime center, a state-of-the-art facility that uses data mining to search millions of computer records and put investigative leads into the hands of detectives in the field. He formerly served as Commissioner of the U.S. Customs Service, where he was awarded the Alexander Hamilton Medal for exceptional service. As Director of the International Police Monitors in Haiti, an initiative to end human rights abuses, Commissioner Kelly was awarded the Exceptionally Meritorious Service Commendation by the President of the United States. He is a 40-year veteran of the NYPD and also a United States Marine Corps officer, and served in Vietnam and retired as a colonel after 30 years of service. Commissioner Kelly holds a Juris Doctorate degree from St. John's University School of Law, and in 2006, he was awarded France's highest decoration, the Legion of Honor, by then French Minister of the Interior, Nicolas Sarkozy. So, at this time, it is my distinct pleasure to present to you Ray Kelly, Commissioner of the New York City Police Department.
Thank you, Walter. Yes, sir. Thank you. Well done. Well, good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Walter. I want to commend you and certainly commend Executive Director Bart Johnson and indeed all of the leadership of IACP for producing this very impressive conference. And let me also thank Director General Claude Ballon for his kind comments and his support of the NYPD. Now, if there was ever a time for us to benefit from the collective knowledge of IACP, this is it. A tough economy and declining tax revenues have brought enormous pressures to bear on police agencies across our country. A 2011 U.S. Department of Justice study found that, quote, "The Great Recession has changed the face of American policing." Estimates, including the IACP's own, show that between 10,000 and 15,000 sworn officer positions have been eliminated. Police departments are implementing a range of options to cope with it, from shared heavy weapons teams to crime laboratories, dispatcher and record units, to wholesale mergers and regionalization. Each of us, in our own way, has had to come to terms with this reality. The New York City Police Department has 6,000 fewer sworn officers in its ranks than it had 11 years ago. We're here at IACP this week, in part to learn from one another's experiences and to stay out in front of the issues that will affect all of us. With that in mind, I'd like to speak to you about two trends we're experiencing in New York City that I believe have relevance to police agencies nationwide and perhaps even internationally. The first is the rise of social media and how it's affecting our mission, particularly with respect to our work at combating gangs. The second is the impact of the overall technology revolution on our mission and the challenges and benefits that it brings. Now today, back in New York City, we're announcing an initiative to combat loosely affiliated gangs, or street crews as we call them, mainly comprised of young teens who are responsible for much of the violence in and around public housing and elsewhere. While their propensity for violence is a major concern of ours, it comes against an encouraging background of continued record reductions in homicides in New York. Under a program that we've named Operation Crew Cut, the department intends to double the size of its gang division from approximately 150 detectives to 300, phased in over a period of time. We'll focus those resources not on large established gangs such as Bloods and Crips, but on the looser associations of younger men who identify themselves by the block they live on, or on which side of a housing project they reside. Their loyalty is to their friends living in a relatively small area, and their rivalries are based not on narcotics trafficking or some other entrepreneurial interest, but simply on local turf. In other words, you come into my backyard and you get hurt. You diss my crew and you pay the price. 2 weeks ago, we arrested 49 members of 2 warring gangs. I think you'll appreciate the names. The Very Crispy Gangsters and the Rock Stars, both in East New York, Brooklyn. They were responsible for several homicides among their own, as well as the shooting of innocent bystanders caught in their many crossfires. By capitalizing on the irresistible urge of these suspects to brag about their murderous exploits on Facebook, detectives used social media to draw a virtual map of their criminal activity over the last 3 years. This kind of tit-for-tat brutality among teens was settled in neighborhoods generations ago by fistfights. Now, more often than not, it's with guns. Social media is another new ingredient, often used to add fuel to the fire. For example, one gang member will post a photograph of himself in front of a rival's apartment building, or post surveillance photographs of rivals who they threaten to kill next. Members also use social media to intimidate informants. They would post copies on Facebook of orders of protection that identified complainants. One gang leader went so far as to call a rival gang leader from prison to chastise him about one of his members snitching. The recipient of the call assured him that he would punish his own member for being a complainant on an order of protection. Now, despite the successes in this takedown and others, the department did not have a coordinated, consistent approach to street crews, thus Operation Crew Cut. With the doubling of the gang division that I mentioned and its focus on these loosely associated crews, we're also having other units in the police department support its work in various ways. For example, lawyers from the department's legal bureau will be assigned to each of our 7 borough gang division units to coordinate arrest and prosecution with the 5 district attorneys in New York City. Each of the affected precincts in the city will have a team of 12 uniformed and plainclothes officers to specifically address street conditions caused by the rivalries between crews. Our Juvenile Justice Division will be the clearinghouse and the monitor to support social media-driven investigations. In addition to tracking the admissions of criminal conduct and plans of future crimes by crew members on Facebook, on YouTube, and elsewhere, the division will be responsible for maintaining an ongoing dictionary, a lexicon of sorts, with continually updated words and phrases employed by crews as a kind of code. Recently, we issued new guidelines for officers using social media as part of criminal investigations. We did this to instill the proper balance between the investigative potential of social network sites and privacy expectations. Officers can adopt aliases for their online work as long as these are registered with the department. They can also protect their anonymity by using department laptops with untraceable internet cards. The NYPD's transit and housing bureaus will also be important support centers for the gang division, because so much of crew violence is focused on public housing in New York City and often spills into our subway system. Now, right now, shootings in New York City are flat. They're down a little over 1% from where they were last year. The number of victims in those shooting incidents are down by 4%. On top of that, we've experienced an 18% reduction in murder. And if the trend continues, we'll establish a new record low by the end of the year. We're hoping that by focusing more resources in a coordinated, thoughtful way on these crews, we'll reduce violent crime in New York City even further. That's because the crews are responsible for no less than 30% of the shootings in New York. And we think there's a real opportunity here to save more lives and perhaps rehabilitate some of these young crew members by having our youth officers visit them at home and provide the kind of tough love that offers the choice between supportive programs or rearrest. Teens engaged in violence against one another also target other teens for thefts, particularly if an Apple product is involved, and very often on the subway system with young people going home from school. Like the impact on the economy itself, the allure of Apple devices has affected New York City's crime rate, surprisingly so. In 2002, we recorded a total of 86 thefts of Apple products in all of New York City. Last year, that number was 13,233. A recent analysis we did showed that the increase in the theft of Apple devices so far this year exceeds the increase for overall crime in New York City. In the first 9 months of this year, there were 11,447 incidents in which Apple products were stolen, an increase of 3,280 over the same period last year, or 40%. Overall crime is up 4%. In the absence of the Apple thefts, we would be experiencing a decline. 2 weeks ago, we sent police officers to 21 stores where the iPhone 5 was making its debut. They were there to register serial numbers and contact information in case the device was stolen. This is part of a comprehensive strategy we put in place that also includes assigning extra officers to the transit system, where certainly some thefts take place, also coordinating and conducting decoy operations, and thanks in large measure to New York Senator Charles Schumer, enlisting cell phone carriers to permanently disable a phone once it's been stolen. Also, getting owners to activate the Find My iPhone application, which allows us to pinpoint the locations of unsuspecting thieves. The technology revolution that we've all experienced in our lifetime and that continues to unfold has been filled with both promise and problems for American policing. On the positive side, 2 weeks ago, the NYPD announced a decision to video record interrogations conducted by our detectives in cases of felony assaults, sex crimes, and murder. After running a pilot program in 5 precincts, we found that the system was not only manageable logistically, but also that the performance of our detectives was such that we expect there will be little or no downside for the prosecution. While some may fear that this videotaping of how the sausage is made, so to speak, might negatively influence juries, our experience suggests otherwise. None of the 300 cases in our pilot resulted in the defense opting for a jury trial. In fact, they were often eager to take a plea once they saw the video recording of the interrogation. In only one case did the defense counsel claim the defendant was unlawfully intimidated in the interrogation and moved to have the confession quashed. The judge was able to view the interrogation because it had been recorded, and he ruled against the defense. Now, I recognize that many police departments have already gone down this road. Larger departments may be encouraged to follow suit, knowing that no department faces greater logistical challenges in terms of equipment purchases, space renovations, and video storage than the NYPD. For us, these concerns were significantly lessened as the equipment became smaller, cheaper, and more reliable. Based on our pilot, we're confident that jurors will be impressed by our detectives and not repelled by the standard techniques they lawfully employ during interrogations. Furthermore, there is this CSI effect. Not only do jurors expect to see in the courtroom the forensics that they see on television, they also expect to see the video interrogations that are dramatized on police shows. Videotaping is good for the police. It will provide documentary evidence to rebut specious allegations of brutality or other misconduct in the interrogation room. I believe we should view this as an advance for American policing. Just as we believe cameras in the interrogation room will help us, there's no doubt that their presence in public spaces where there is no expectation of privacy have been a boon to counterterrorism and conventional crime fighting. Over the past decade, we've continued to invest heavily, thanks in large measure to the federal government, in technology to protect New York from another terrorist attack. We had no choice. The city being the target of 2 successful attacks at the World Trade Center alone, and the subject of 14 unsuccessful plots since then. In developing our counterterrorism capacity, we've taken advantage of systems that are helping us to fight conventional crime as well. Perhaps the most ubiquitous in terms of use by law enforcement nationwide are license plate readers. We've deployed more than 100 LPRs at 6 locations at tunnels and bridges, and another 100 mobile versions mounted on the trunks of police cars, radio cars. And while they're essential to our Lower Manhattan Security Initiative, which is a project to protect the city's financial district from another attack, they've also been used successfully by our Detective Bureau to track down murder suspects and other criminals. Similarly, a sophisticated camera system developed initially as a counterterrorism tool helped us earlier this year to identify and capture someone who sexually assaulted a woman on her way to work on Wall Street. We have more than 3,300 cameras in our Lower and Midtown Manhattan Security Initiative operated by private and NYPD personnel. They're networked together so that from our downtown coordination center, we can view live and recorded footage from any of them. Using special software, we can quickly sift through the massive amount of data we receive and flag items of concern. If a bag is left unattended or a car is driving against the flow of traffic in view of one of our cameras, the software uses an algorithm to recognize the patterns and sends us an alert. Despite the public's overwhelming support for our expanded use of this technology, here we anticipated concerns about privacy. For that reason, when we launched our Lower and Midtown Manhattan security initiatives, we developed a statement of privacy principles to govern what we do and posted it on our website. In my experience, it's always better to implement your own policies before others do it for you. Designed in consultation with one of the nation's leading legal think tanks, our privacy policy sets limits on the retention of data, which we keep for 30 days, and uses other safeguards to reduce the potential for abuse. And thanks to the Department of Homeland Security, our Lower and Midtown Manhattan network also includes 2,600 radiation detectors that have been distributed to our officers on patrol. Through a unique partnership with Microsoft, we've linked all of these tools together to form what we call the Domain Awareness System. This is proprietary technology developed by police officers for police officers with the help of Microsoft experts. It allows us to layer data from multiple sources on a single dashboard, giving us a comprehensive view of potential threats and criminal activity. In addition to the obvious benefits to public safety, in a first-of-its-kind agreement, Microsoft has consented to pay the NYPD 30% of its gross revenues on the sale of the system to customers worldwide. These funds will be used to support other cutting-edge crime prevention and counterterrorism programs. Doing more with less has become a way of life for police agencies across America. These are challenging times. But I believe that by continuing to focus our resources strategically and harnessing the power of technology, we can remain effective. Now, every locality is unique. There are no one-size-fits-all solutions for public safety. However, the goal here at IACP is not to dwell on how we differ, but rather how to adapt one another's best ideas, best practices, and proven strategies to fit our own needs. If we can do that successfully, I'm confident we can build on the tremendous gains made in reducing violent crime across the nation and save more lives in the process. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do to protect the cities and towns throughout America and keep up the outstanding work. Thank you.